The unexpected encounter. The twin suns of Kepler-16b cast long shadows across the barren landscape as Zara slowly regained consciousness. Her iridescent blue skin, usually vibrant and lustrous, was now dull and caked with reddish dust. She blinked her golden eyes, struggling to adjust to the harsh light of an alien world. Confusion gave way to panic as memories flooded back, the whispers in the night, rough hands grabbing her, and then nothing. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking from dehydration. "No, no, no." Zara scrambled to her feet, ignoring the protests of her aching body. She spun in a circle, taking in the desolate vista that surrounded her. Jagged rock formations jutted from the ground like the teeth of some colossal beast. A hot wind whipped across the plain, carrying with it the acrid scent of sulfur. This wasn't home. This wasn't the lush, verdant world of Lyra where she had spent her entire life. This was a nightmare made real, a barren hellscape where her own people had abandoned her to die. Tears welled in Zara's eyes, but she blinked them back furiously. Prying would only waste precious moisture. She had to think, had to plan. Survival was paramount now. "Focus," she muttered to herself, falling back on the mantras that had been drilled into her since childhood. Assess, adapt, overcome. First priority, water. Zara's throat burned with thirst, her lips already cracking in the arid air. She scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of vegetation that might indicate a water source. Nothing but rocks and dust as far as the eye could see. A distant rumble caught her attention. Zara's heart leaped as she spotted dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Rain, but her excitement quickly turned to dread as she realized she had no way to collect or store the water. Frantically, Zara began to search the immediate area. Her keen eyes, adapted for hunting in the dense jungles of Lyra, picked out details others might have missed. There, a depression in the rock, worn smooth by eons of wind erosion. It wasn't much, but it might be enough to collect some precious rainwater. As the storm approached, Zara worked feverishly to improve her crude catchment. She used a sharp stone to scrape away dirt, widening the natural bowl. When the first fat droplets began to fall, she let out a cry of joy that was quickly drowned out by a deafening crack of thunder. The rain came down in sheets, stinging Zara's skin with its intensity. She cupped her hands, gulping down as much water as she could while simultaneously watching her improvised reservoir fill. The downpour lasted barely 10 minutes before moving on, leaving Zara soaked to the bone, but feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time since awakening in this alien hell. As the adrenaline of the moment faded, exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her. But Zara knew she couldn't rest, not yet. She had to find shelter before nightfall. Who knew what dangers lurked in the darkness of this unforgiving world? With one last longing look at the precious water she'd collected, Zara set out to explore her surroundings. Each step was a struggle against fatigue and the growing ache of hunger in her belly. She forced herself to keep moving, scanning the rocky terrain for anything that might serve as a temporary refuge. As the alien suns began to dip towards the horizon, casting the landscape in eerie shades of orange and purple, Zara's spirits sank. She was about to give up hope when a dark opening caught her eye, a cave partially hidden behind a jutting outcropping of rock. Approaching cautiously, Zara peered into the inky blackness. The cave mouth was narrow, but it seemed to open up further inside. A cool breeze wafted out, carrying with it a musty mineral scent. It wasn't ideal, but it was shelter. Zara hesitated at the threshold, every instinct screaming at her not to enter the unknown darkness. But as the temperature began to drop and strange, keening cries echoed across the plain, she steeled herself and plunged into the cave. The transition from light to dark was disorienting. Zara stumbled forward, her hands outstretched to feel her way along the rough stone walls. As her eyes slowly adjusted, she became aware of a faint, pulsing glow emanating from deeper within the cave. Curiosity overcame caution, and Zara pressed further into the cavern. The source of the light soon revealed itself, clusters of crystalline formations that seemed to throb with an inner radiance. They cast the cave in a soft, bluish glow that was somehow both alien and comforting. "Beautiful," Zara breathed, reaching out to touch one of the crystals. As her fingers brushed its surface, a spark of energy jolted through her body. She jerked her hand back with a gasp, but the sensation hadn't been painful. If anything, it left her feeling more alert and alive than she had since awakening on this world. As the sobs racked her body, Zara's mind drifted back to the events that had led to this moment. She had always been different from the others in her tribe. Where they valued brute strength and aggression, Zara had excelled in areas they deemed worthless. Her keen intellect, her ability to communicate with the flora and fauna of Lyra, her talent for healing. Weak, they had called her. Useless. No matter how hard she tried to prove her worth, to show that there were different kinds of strength, they refused to see it. The final straw had come during the Great Hunt, a rite of passage for all young Lyrans. Zara had tracked her prey flawlessly, moving through the jungle with a grace that put her peers to shame. But when the moment came to make the kill, she had hesitated. The creature, a magnificent feline predator with iridescent fur, had looked into her eyes, and Zara had seen intelligence there, a kindred spirit. She couldn't do it. She lowered her weapon and let the beast go free. The mockery and derision from her tribemates had been unbearable, but worse was the look of utter disappointment in her father's eyes. He was the tribe's leader, and Zara had always strived to make him proud. In that moment, she knew she had failed him completely. Now, huddled in a cave on an alien world, Zara realized that her exile may have been inevitable. She had never truly fit in with her people. Perhaps this was the universe's way of setting her on a different path. As her tears subsided, a new emotion began to take hold: determination. She would survive this. She would thrive. And someday, somehow, she would show her people the error of their ways. Zara's gaze fell upon the glowing crystals once more. In their pulsing light, she saw a reflection of her own resilience. Like these strange formations, she too would find a way to shine in the darkness. With that thought, Zara allowed exhaustion to finally claim her. As she drifted off to sleep, the crystals seemed to pulse in time with her breathing, a silent lullaby in this alien world that was now her home. The next morning brought new challenges and discoveries. Zara awoke to find that the cave's temperature had dropped significantly during the night. Her body, adapted to the warm, humid climate of Lyra, shivered uncontrollably. She knew that finding a way to regulate her body temperature would be crucial for long-term survival. Venturing out of the cave, Zara was greeted by a landscape transformed. The twin suns painted the sky in breathtaking hues of pink and gold, their light refracting off mineral deposits in the rocks to create shimmering rainbows across the barren plain. For a moment, Zara forgot her dire situation, captivated by the alien beauty of her new world. Reality quickly reasserted itself as her stomach growled painfully. Food was the next priority. On Lyra, Zara had been an expert forager, able to discern edible plants from poisonous ones with a single glance. Here, everything was foreign and potentially deadly. Zara spent the morning carefully examining the sparse vegetation that managed to eke out an existence in this harsh environment. She found a type of succulent plant with thick, waxy leaves that seemed promising. Breaking one open, she cautiously touched the sticky sap to her tongue. The taste was bitter but not unpleasant, and she felt no immediate ill effects. "Better than nothing," Zara muttered, gathering as many of the plants as she could find. She knew she would need to be careful. Eating too much of an unfamiliar food could be just as dangerous as starvation. As the suns climbed higher in the sky, the temperature rose to nearly unbearable levels. Zara retreated to the relative coolness of her cave, using the time to fashion crude tools from the rocks and sparse vegetation she had gathered. Her nimble fingers, once the subject of mockery from her more warrior-like tribemates, now proved invaluable as she wove tough fibers into a serviceable carry sack. It was while working on this task that Zara made a startling discovery. The glowing crystals that lined the cave walls weren't just beautiful, they were useful. As she worked near a particularly large cluster, Zara noticed that her fatigue seemed to lessen. The ache in her muscles eased, and her mind felt sharper, more focused. Intrigued, Zara began to experiment. She found that prolonged exposure to the crystal's pulsing light left her feeling energized and clear-headed. Even more remarkably, when she pressed a crystal to a small cut on her arm, a souvenir from her earlier foraging, the wound began to close before her eyes. "By the Great Mother," Zara whispered, awe and excitement warring in her voice. These crystals could be the key to her survival, or, if she could find a way to harness their energy, to perhaps even take some with her on her explorations. The possibilities were tantalizing, but Zara forced herself to focus on more immediate concerns. She couldn't afford to become distracted by scientific curiosity, not when her very survival hung in the balance. As the days passed, Zara fell into a routine of sorts. She would wake at first light, venturing out to collect water from her improvised catchment and forage for what meager sustenance she could find. The rest of her time was split between improving her shelter, crafting tools and clothing from the limited resources available, and exploring her immediate surroundings. Each day brought new challenges. Zara discovered the hard way that the planet's weather could change in an instant. One moment she would be sweltering under the twin suns, the next she'd be running for shelter as golf ball-sized hailstones pelted from the sky. She learned to read the subtle signs of impending weather shifts, a skill that saved her life more than once. The nights were the hardest. As darkness fell, the temperature would plummet, and strange, unsettling sounds would echo across the plain. Zara would huddle in her cave, the glow of the crystals her only comfort as she tried to convince herself that the shadows moving outside were just tricks of the light. But for all its hardships, the alien world was not without its wonders. Zara witnessed breathtaking auroras that danced across the night sky, their colors more vivid than anything she had seen on Lyra. She discovered a species of bioluminescent insects that created dazzling light shows in the pre-dawn hours. And always there were the crystals, their steady pulse a constant reminder that even in the harshest environments, life and beauty could thrive. As weeks turned into months, Zara found herself changing, both physically and mentally. Her once soft hands grew calloused from constant work. Her iridescent blue skin darkened and toughened under the relentless suns. She became leaner, stronger, her body adapting to the challenges of her new home. But it was the changes to her mind that were most profound. The loneliness and fear that had initially threatened to overwhelm her gave way to a quiet determination. She began to take pride in her ability to survive, to solve problems, to push beyond the limitations she had once accepted as immutable. One evening, as Zara sat at the mouth of her cave watching the sunset, a realization struck her with the force of a physical blow. For the first time in her life, she felt truly free. There were no expectations to live up to, no disappointed glances to avoid, no constant pressure to be something she was not. Here, on this desolate world, she could simply be Zara. The thought brought both joy and a deep, aching sadness. She missed her people, despite their rejection of her. She longed for companionship, for someone to share in her discoveries and triumphs. But she was also coming to understand that the exile that was meant to break her had instead given her the opportunity to discover her true strength. As if in response to her thoughts, a flicker of movement on the horizon caught Zara's attention. She squinted, hardly daring to believe her eyes. But there it was again, a dark shape moving with purpose across the plain. Zara's heart raced. In all her time on this world, she had never seen anything larger than the insects and small lizard-like creatures that scurried among the rocks. This was something else entirely. Without conscious thought, Zara found herself moving towards the mysterious shape. Part of her screamed that this was foolish, that she should retreat to the safety of her cave. But a larger part, the part that had kept her alive these past months, urged her forward. This could be a threat, yes, but it could also be an opportunity, for food, for knowledge, for companionship. As she drew closer, the shape resolved itself into a bipedal figure. Zara's breath caught in her throat. It looked almost Lyran in form, but something was off. The proportions were wrong, the movement too stiff and awkward. Then the figure turned, and Zara got her first clear look at its face. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, pale and hairless, with small, round eyes and a protruding nose. Some kind of protective suit covered most of its body, and a clear helmet encased its head. The creature, for Zara was certain now that this was some form of alien life, seemed just as startled by her appearance. It took a stumbling step backward, raising a device in what might have been a defensive gesture. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, two impossibly different beings, meeting on a world foreign to them both. Then, slowly, carefully, the alien lowered its device. It raised one hand, palm outward, in what Zara instinctively understood as a gesture of peace. Zara's mind raced. Everything she had endured, every hardship she had overcome, had led to this moment. She thought of her people, who had cast her out for being different, for failing to conform to their narrow view of strength. She thought of the countless nights she had spent alone, gazing up at the stars and wondering if anyone else was out there. And now, here was the answer. Here was a chance to prove that true strength lay not in brute force or blind adherence to tradition, but in the courage to reach out across the gulf of the unknown. With a deep breath, Zara stepped forward. She mimicked the alien's gesture, raising her own hand in greeting. And then, drawing upon reserves of courage she hadn't known she possessed, Zara spoke. "Hello," she said, her voice rough from disuse, but clear in the still air of the alien world. "My name is Zara. Welcome to my home." The alien's reaction was immediate and unexpected. It let out a sound that might have been a laugh, tinny and distorted through its helmet. Then, to Zara's utter astonishment, it spoke, not in any language she recognized, but in clear, synthesized tones that somehow translated directly into her mind. "Well, I'll be damned," the alien said, its voice unmistakably masculine. "I come all this way looking for resources, and instead I find a blue-skinned beauty who speaks English. The guys back at Mission Control are never going to believe this." Zara blinked, struggling to process this turn of events. You can understand me?" she asked, her mind reeling. The alien, a male, Zara now realized, nodded. "Universal translator," he said, tapping the side of his helmet. "Standard issue for all deep space missions. Though I've got to say, it's never had such a workout before. Your language isn't in any of our databases." He took a step closer, his eyes visible now through the clear faceplate of his helmet, roaming over Zara with undisguised curiosity. Zara tensed as the alien approached, her instincts warring between curiosity and caution. The male seemed to sense her unease and stopped, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "Sorry," he said, his voice softening. "I didn't mean to startle you. My name's Alex. I'm a human from a planet called Earth. And you? Well, you're the most incredible thing I've seen in my entire career as an explorer." Zara felt a flush creep up her neck at his words. She wasn't used to such open admiration, especially not from a male. On Lyra, she had always been seen as an oddity at best, a disappointment at worst. "I'm Zara," she repeated, forcing herself to relax. I'm not from here. This isn't my world." Alex's eyes widened behind his faceplate. "You're stranded here. How long have you been alone on this rock?" Zara shrugged, a gesture she had picked up from observing the local fauna. "I've seen the moon cycle 17 times since I awoke here. Before that, I'm not sure. My people, She trailed off, the pain of her exile still too raw to voice aloud. Understanding flickered in Alex's eyes. "You don't have to explain," he said gently. "Look, my ship isn't far from here. Why don't we go there and get you some real food and water? Then we can figure out what to do next." Zara hesitated. The offer was tempting, more than tempting. But after months of solitude and self-reliance, the thought of trusting this stranger, this alien, was terrifying. Alex seemed to read her thoughts. I promise I mean you no harm, he said. If you're not comfortable coming with me, that's fine. But at least let me bring you some supplies. No one should have to survive in a place like this alone. His sincerity was palpable, even through the distortion of his helmet. Zara found herself nodding before she had consciously made the decision. All right, she said. But first, there's something I need to show you. She led Alex back to her cave, explaining about the crystals and their strange properties as they walked. The human's excitement was contagious as he examined the glowing formations. This is incredible, he breathed, running a scanner over the largest cluster. The energy readings are off the charts. Zara, do you realize what this could mean? These crystals could revolutionize space travel, medicine, hell, maybe even solve our energy crisis back home. Zara felt a surge of pride at his words. All those months of observation and experimentation hadn't been for nothing. She had discovered something truly valuable. As Alex continued to study the crystals, peppering Zara with questions about their properties and effects, she found herself relaxing in his presence. There was an earnestness to him, a genuine passion for discovery that resonated with her own curious nature. When they finally made their way to Alex's ship, Zara was awestruck. The sleek vessel seemed to absorb the light of the setting suns, its surface a deep matte black that defied her attempts to focus on any one part of it. Inside, the ship was a marvel of technology far beyond anything Zara had ever imagined. Alex gave her a quick tour, explaining the basics of how the various systems worked. Zara drank it all in, her quick mind already making connections and extrapolations. As promised, Alex provided her with food and water, real food, not the meager sustenance she had scraped together these past months. Zara had to force herself to eat slowly, savoring each bite of the nutrient-dense rations. So, Alex said as they sat in the ship's small galley, "What's our next move? I can't in good conscience leave you here alone, but I also can't take you back to Earth without authorization from my superiors. And to be honest, I'm not sure how they'd react to, well, to you." Zara considered her options carefully. The thought of leaving this planet, of exploring the stars, was intoxicating. But she also felt a strange attachment to the world that had been both her prison and her proving ground. "What if," she began hesitantly, "what if we stayed here, just for a while? There's so much more to explore, so much we could learn. And the crystals, we've only scratched the surface of understanding their potential." Alex's face broke into a wide grin. "A scientific expedition? I like the way you think, Zara. It'll take some fancy footwork to convince Mission Control, but I think I can swing it, especially once they see the data on those crystals." And so began a new chapter in Zara's life. Over the next few weeks, she and Alex fell into an easy rhythm of exploration and discovery. They ventured further across the planet's surface, mapping its features and cataloging its sparse but fascinating ecosystem. Zara found herself blossoming under Alex's tutelage. He taught her the basics of Earth science and technology, marveling at how quickly she grasped complex concepts. In return, she shared her knowledge of survival techniques and her intuitive understanding of the natural world. As they worked side by side, a deeper connection began to form between them. Zara found herself drawn to Alex's quick wit and kind heart. For his part, Alex was constantly amazed by Zara's resilience and brilliant mind. One evening, as they sat watching a meteor shower paint streaks of fire across the alien sky, Alex turned to Zara with a serious expression. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "My tour of duty here is almost up. In a few weeks, I'll be expected to return to Earth. But I don't want to leave you behind." Zara's heart raced. She had been dreading this moment, knowing it would come but pushing it to the back of her mind. "What are you saying, Alex?" He took a deep breath. "I'm saying I want you to come with me. To Earth. It won't be easy. There will be a lot of questions, probably some tests. But I'll be with you every step of the way. And after that, well, the universe is a big place. We could explore it together." Zara stared at him, emotions warring within her. Fear of the unknown, excitement at the possibilities, and something else, something warm and bright that she was only beginning to understand. "Alex, she began, but was cut off by a sudden blinding flash of light in the sky above them. They both leaped to their feet, staring in shock as a massive ship burst through the atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot from the friction of entry. It was nothing like Alex's sleek vessel. This was a behemoth, all harsh angles and bristling weapons. "That's not one of ours," Alex whispered, his face pale in the harsh light of the ship's thrusters. As they watched, paralyzed, a beam of energy lanced out from the ship, carving a deep furrow in the planet's surface not far from where they stood. The ground shook with the impact, nearly knocking them off their feet. "We have to go," Alex said urgently, grabbing Zara's hand. "Now." They ran towards Alex's ship, the sound of their ragged breathing drowned out by the ominous hum of the alien vessel overhead. Zara's mind raced. Who were these new arrivals? What did they want? And most pressingly, had they come for her? As they reached the ship, a new sound cut through the chaos, a high-pitched whine that seemed to vibrate through Zara's very bones. She turned, her eyes widening in horror as she saw a section of the massive ship's hull slide open. "Alex," she gasped, pointing. He followed her gaze, his face hardening as he saw what had caught her attention. Dozens of smaller craft were pouring out of the opening, their sleek forms glinting in the light of the twin suns. "Get in," Alex ordered, practically shoving Zara through the airlock. "We're leaving. Now." As Alex rushed to the cockpit, his hands flying over the controls, Zara found herself frozen in place. Through the viewscreen, she could see the swarm of alien craft descending towards the planet's surface. Towards her cave, towards the crystals. "Wait," she cried, a sudden realization hitting her. "The crystals. We can't leave them behind. If those ships are here for what I think they're here for..." Alex cursed under his breath, but his fingers never stopped moving across the ship's interface. "We don't have time, Zara. Those aren't friendly visitors, and I'm not about to stick around to find out what they want." Zara felt tears stinging her eyes. Those crystals had saved her life, had given her hope when all seemed lost. The thought of them falling into unknown, possibly hostile hands was unbearable. As if sensing her distress, Alex's voice softened. "I'm sorry. I know what those crystals mean to you. But right now, we need to focus on staying alive. We can come back, I promise. But first, we need to get out of here and warn my people about what's happening." Zara nodded numbly, strapping herself into the co-pilot's seat as Alex fired up the engines. The ship lifted off smoothly, accelerating towards the upper atmosphere with a speed that pressed Zara back into her seat. Through the viewscreen, she watched as her adopted world fell away beneath them. The alien ships were now swarming over the area where her cave had been, their intentions clear even from this distance. As they broke through the last layers of atmosphere, a warning klaxon blared through the ship's cabin. "Damn it," Alex muttered, his hands dancing across the controls. "They spotted us. Hang on tight, Zara. This might get rough." The ship banked hard to the left, narrowly avoiding a burst of energy from one of the pursuing craft. Zara gripped her seat, her heart pounding as Alex expertly wove through the oncoming fire. "I don't suppose your people taught you anything about space combat?" Alex asked, a hint of gallows humor in his voice. Despite the dire situation, Zara found herself smiling. "I'm afraid not. But I'm a quick learner, remember." Alex chuckled. "That you are. All right, see that panel to your right? I need you to keep an eye on our shield levels. If they drop below 20%, hit the big red button. It'll give us a temporary boost, but it'll drain our power reserves fast." Zara nodded, focusing on the readouts before her. As Alex continued to evade their pursuers, she called out shield levels and power readings, working in seamless tandem with the human pilot. Just as it seemed they might break free of the planet's gravity well, a massive shape loomed before them, the mothership, moving to cut off their escape. Zara's breath caught in her throat as she realized the true scale of the vessel. It was easily the size of a small moon, bristling with weapons and crackling with strange energies. "Alex," she whispered, "what do we do?" For the first time since she had met him, Zara saw real fear in Alex's eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was steady. "We do what explorers have always done when faced with the unknown, Zara. We adapt, we overcome, and we sure as hell don't give up." With that, he yanked hard on the controls, sending their ship into a steep dive. They skimmed along the surface of the massive vessel, weaving between its protruding structures as energy beams lanced out around them. Zara's mind raced, taking in every detail of the alien ship's construction. Something about it seemed familiar, tugging at the edges of her memory. Then, with a jolt of recognition, she saw it, a pattern in the ship's hull plating, eerily similar to the crystalline formations in her cave. "Alex," she shouted over the blare of alarms, "I think I know what they're after. The crystals, they're using them somehow. Look at the hull." Alex spared a glance at where she was pointing, his eyes widening in understanding. "Good eye, Zara. But how does that help us?" An idea formed in Zara's mind, crazy and desperate, but possibly their only chance. The crystals respond to certain energy frequencies. If we can match that frequency with our shields. She didn't need to finish the thought. Alex was already adjusting their shield modulation, following Zara's hurried instructions. As the frequency aligned, a strange resonance built up around their ship. The pursuing craft fell back, their weapons suddenly ineffective against the harmonizing shields. "It's working," Alex whooped, pushing their engines to maximum as they shot past the massive alien vessel. "Zara, you're a genius." As they accelerated away from the planet and its unwelcome visitors, Zara felt a mix of elation and sorrow wash over her. They had escaped, yes, but at what cost? Her home for the past months was now in the hands of an unknown, potentially hostile force. The crystals that had given her hope and purpose were beyond her reach. But as she looked at Alex, saw the pride and affection shining in his eyes, she realized that she had gained something far more valuable, a partner, a friend, and perhaps something more. As the stars streaked by outside the viewscreen, Zara made her decision. "Alex," she said softly, "about what you said earlier. About going to Earth and then exploring the universe together." He turned to her, hope written plainly across his features. "Yes." Zara smiled, reaching out to take his hand. "I think I'd like that very much." Alex's answering grin was brighter than any star. As their ship raced towards an uncertain future, Zara felt a sense of peace settle over her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew that together she and Alex could face them. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and Zara, once exiled and alone, was now embarking on the greatest adventure of all, Secrets of the Crystal Planet. As Alex's ship hurtled through the vast expanse of space, Zara found herself torn between exhilaration and apprehension. The stars streaked by in dazzling ribbons of light, a sight that would have once seemed impossible to the exiled Lyran. Yet, her thoughts kept drifting back to the mysterious crystals and the ominous alien vessel that had appeared over her temporary home. "Alex," Zara said, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them, "I can't shake the feeling that we're missing something crucial about those crystals. The way that ship's hull resembled their structure, it can't be coincidence." Alex nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration as he piloted the ship. "I've been thinking the same thing. Those weren't just any old space pirates or scavengers. They came prepared, and they came in force. Whatever those crystals are, they're big news." A thought struck Zara, causing her to sit up straight in her co-pilot's chair. What if my exile wasn't an accident? What if my people knew about the crystals all along? The implications of her words hung heavy in the air. Alex's hands tightened on the controls. If that's true, we might be dealing with something far bigger than we realized. An interstellar conspiracy, maybe. Quantum resonance manipulation. The words tumbled from Zara's lips, surprising even herself. Alex shot her a quizzical look. It's something I remember hearing whispered about back on Lyra," Zara explained, her mind racing to piece together fragments of memory, a theoretical technology that could harness the fundamental forces of the universe. But it was always dismissed as a myth, a story to scare children away from dabbling in forbidden sciences. Alex's eyes widened. But if it's real, and those crystals are the key, then whoever controls them could reshape reality itself, Zora finished, a chill running down her spine. The conversation was cut short by a sudden, violent lurch of the ship. Warning klaxons blared as the vessel shuddered around them. "What's happening?" Zara cried, gripping her seat as Alex fought with the controls. "Some kind of energy field," Alex grunted, his face a mask of concentration. "It's pulling us off course. Hang on." The ship's viewscreen filled with a swirling vortex of light and color. Zara felt a tugging sensation in her very atoms, as if reality itself was being stretched and distorted around them. Then, with a final, wrenching jolt, everything went black. When Zara regained consciousness, the first thing she noticed was the silence. The ever-present hum of the ship's engines was gone, replaced by an eerie stillness. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the dim emergency lighting. "Alex," she called out, her voice sounding oddly muffled. A groan from the pilot's seat answered her. "I'm here," Alex said, shaking his head as if to clear it. "You okay?" "I think so," Zara replied, running a quick mental check of her body. Nothing seemed broken or out of place. "What happened? Where are we?" Alex tapped at the ship's controls, frowning as most of the screens remained dark. "Systems are mostly offline, but from what I can tell," he trailed off, his eyes widening as he looked out the viewscreen. Zara followed his gaze and gasped. Outside, a landscape of crystalline structures stretched as far as the eye could see. Towering spires and delicate archways glowed with an inner light, pulsing in complex, hypnotic patterns. The sky above was a kaleidoscope of colors, shimmering and shifting like the surface of a soap bubble. "It's beautiful," Zara breathed, pressing her hands against the viewscreen. "And impossible," Alex added, his voice tinged with awe and disbelief. "We're inside a planet made entirely of crystal." As if on cue, a beam of light shot out from one of the nearest crystal formations, enveloping their ship. Zara felt a tingling sensation throughout her body, not unlike what she had experienced when first touching the crystals in her cave. "Alex," she said slowly, a mixture of excitement and trepidation in her voice, "I think the planet is scanning us. Or communicating." Before Alex could respond, the light intensified. Zara heard a sound like shattering glass, and suddenly, the ship around them seemed to dissolve into motes of light. She reached out instinctively for Alex, feeling his hand grasp hers tightly as the world around them transformed. When the light faded, they found themselves standing on a platform of smooth, translucent crystal. The air around them shimmered with energy, and Zara realized with a start that they were breathing normally, despite the alien environment. "Welcome, seekers," a voice resonated in their minds, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You have been brought to the heart of creation, the nexus of all realities. Here, the boundaries between what is, what was, and what could be, blur." A figure materialized before them, its form constantly shifting and flowing like liquid crystal. It was beautiful and terrifying in its otherworldliness. "I am the custodian," the being continued. "For eons, I have guarded the secrets of the quantum lattice, waiting for those worthy to inherit its power. You, Zora of Lyra, and you, Alex of Earth, have been chosen." Zora and Alex exchanged stunned glances. This was far beyond anything they could have imagined. "Chosen for what?" Alex asked, his voice steady despite the extraordinary circumstances. The custodian's form rippled, and suddenly they were surrounded by holographic images of distant worlds and alien civilizations. "To prevent the collapse of all realities," it said gravely. "The power of the quantum lattice is being misused." The fabric of existence phrase. "You must learn to wield the true power of the crystals and restore balance to the multiverse." Zara's mind reeled with the implications. Her exile, her meeting with Alex, the attack on the crystal planet, it had all been leading to this moment. She thought of her people on Lyra, of Alex's home on Earth, of countless other worlds hanging in the balance. "We'll do it," she said, surprising herself with the determination in her voice. "We'll learn, we'll fight, whatever it takes." Alex squeezed her hand, a gesture of solidarity and support. "Together," he added. The custodian's form seemed to brighten. "Then let your training begin. The fate of all realities rests in your hands." As the crystal world around them pulsed with newfound energy, Zara felt a surge of purpose unlike anything she had ever known. She and Alex exchanged a look of shared resolve. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever cosmic forces they would have to confront, they would face them as one. The adventure that had begun with an exile's survival on a desolate world was about to expand beyond the boundaries of imagination. Zara and Alex, unlikely partners from distant stars, were poised to become the guardians of reality itself. And so, deep within the crystalline heart of an impossible planet, their true journey began. Quantum Crucible. The crystal world pulsed with an otherworldly energy as Zara and Alex began their training under the custodian's guidance. Days blurred into weeks, and weeks into months, as they delved deeper into the mysteries of the quantum lattice. Zara's natural affinity for the crystals blossomed into an extraordinary talent. She learned to manipulate quantum fields with a mere thought, bending light, matter, and even the fabric of space-time itself. Alex, with his scientific background, grasped the theoretical underpinnings of their newfound powers, pushing the boundaries of what they thought possible. "Focus, Zara," the custodian's resonant voice echoed in her mind as she struggled to maintain a localized temporal distortion. "The key lies not in forcing reality to bend, but in understanding its inherent malleability." Sweat beaded on Zara's brow as she concentrated. Slowly, the air before her began to shimmer and twist. A small object, a piece of fruit from Alex's rations, appeared to age rapidly, decaying to dust in a matter of seconds. "Impressive," Alex remarked, his eyes wide with wonder. "You're getting better at this every day." Zara allowed herself a small smile of pride. "Thanks. Though I still can't manage anything on the scale, we'll need to face whatever's out there misusing the lattice's power." The custodian's form rippled, a gesture they had come to recognize as approval. "Do not underestimate your progress. The mastery of small things often leads to greatness." As their training intensified, Zara and Alex grew closer, their bond deepening beyond mere friendship or partnership. They found solace and strength in each other, an anchor amidst the mind-bending concepts and cosmic responsibilities they grappled with daily. One night, for time held little meaning in the eternal glow of the crystal planet, Zara found Alex standing alone on a high spire, gazing out at the shimmering, ever-changing landscape. "Credit for your thoughts?" she asked, using an Earth phrase Alex had taught her. He turned, a wry smile on his face. "Just thinking about how far we've come. A few months ago, I was a lone explorer, and you were an exile on a barren world. Now we're, what? Quantum warriors? Reality's last line of defense." Zara moved to stand beside him, their shoulders brushing. "It does seem rather absurd when you put it that way." "Absurd, terrifying, and absolutely incredible," Alex agreed. He paused, his expression growing serious. "Zara, there's something I need to tell you." But before he could continue, a violent tremor shook the crystal spire. The sky above erupted in a cacophony of color and sound, as if reality itself was tearing at the seams. The custodian's voice boomed urgently in their minds. "It has begun. The enemies of creation have found us. You must be ready." Zara and Alex exchanged a look of determination, whatever Alex had been about to say forgotten in the face of imminent danger. They raced back to the central hub of their crystalline sanctuary, where the custodian awaited. "The forces that seek to control the quantum lattice for their own ends have launched an assault on this realm," the being explained, its form flickering with agitation. "They wield corrupted crystal technology twisting the very fabric of reality to serve their dark purpose. Through a shimmering portal, Zara and Alex witnessed the approaching threat, a vast armada of ships, their hulls writhing with malevolent energy, bore down on the crystal planet. At their center loomed a behemoth that dwarfed even the massive vessel they had encountered during their escape. By the cosmic winds, Zara breathed, her voice a mix of awe and horror. "Is that?" "Yes," the custodian confirmed grimly. "The Void Monarch, ancient enemy of balance and order. It seeks to collapse all realities into a single timeline, one that it alone would rule." Alex's jaw set in determination. "Then we stop it, here and now." The custodian's form pulsed with approval. "You have learned much, but this battle will test you beyond anything you have yet faced. Are you ready to embrace your destiny as guardians of the quantum realm?" Zara felt a surge of power course through her, the crystals around them resonating with her resolve. She turned to Alex, seeing the same fierce determination mirrored in his eyes. "We are," they answered in unison. With a gesture from the custodian, crystalline armor materialized around them, pulsing with the raw energy of the quantum lattice. In their hands formed weapons of pure light, a staff for Zara, a sword for Alex, extensions of their will and conduits for their newfound powers. "Remember your training," the custodian intoned as a portal shimmered to life before them. "Trust in each other, and in the power of the lattice. The multiverse hangs in the balance." Zara and Alex shared one last look, volumes spoken in that silent exchange. Then, with a synchronized nod, they stepped through the portal and into chaos. The space above the crystal planet was a maelstrom of quantum energy and twisted physics. Reality itself seemed to warp and buckle as the Void Monarch's forces clashed with the planet's crystalline defenses. Zara and Alex found themselves in the thick of the battle, their quantum-infused forms allowing them to navigate the reality-bending battlefield. They moved in perfect synchronization, covering each other's flanks as they tore through the enemy's ranks. Zara wielded her staff with fluid grace, each strike sending ripples through spacetime. Pockets of accelerated time caused enemy ships to age and crumble in seconds, while localized gravity wells crushed others into singularities. Alex's sword cleaved through the fabric of reality itself, opening rifts that swallowed entire squadrons of attacking craft. His scientific mind allowed him to predict and counter the enemy's attempts to weaponize paradoxes and causality loops. As they fought their way towards the Void Monarch's flagship, Zara caught glimpses of familiar crystalline patterns in the enemy vessels. Her suspicions about her exile deepened, but there was no time to dwell on it now. "Alex," she called out, deflecting a barrage of chronoton torpedoes. "We need to get aboard that ship. It's the key to ending this." He nodded, dispatching a group of chronotroopers with a sweeping arc of his blade. "Agreed. But how do we get past those defenses?" The answer came from an unexpected source. The custodian's voice resonated in their minds once more. "You must synchronize your quantum signatures. Together, you can create a breach in the Void Monarch's reality-walking field." Understanding dawned on them simultaneously. Without a word, Zara and Alex moved together, their arms outstretched. As their hands met, a surge of energy pulsed between them. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a soundless explosion of light, a rift tore open before the Void Monarch's command deck. Zara and Alex leaped through, reality reasserting itself behind them with a thunderous crash. They found themselves face to face with the Void Monarch itself, a being of writhing darkness and fractured timelines, its form a hideous mockery of the custodian's crystalline beauty. "Ah, the Guardians arrive at last," it spoke, its voice a discordant cacophony of 1,000 shattered realities. "How fitting that you should bear witness to the dawn of a new cosmic order." "The only thing dawning today is your defeat," Alex retorted, raising his sword. Zora's eyes narrowed as she took in the creature before them. "You're a perversion of everything the quantum lattice represents. We won't let you destroy the multiverse for your own selfish desires." The Void Monarch's laughter shook the very foundations of reality. Foolish children, you cannot hope to comprehend the true nature of existence. All realities are but shadows, imperfect reflections. I will unite them, perfect them, under my singular vision. With that, the final battle began. The command deck warped and twisted around them as the Void Monarch unleashed the full fury of its corrupted crystal power. Zara and Alex fought with everything they had, their quantum abilities pushed to the limit and beyond. They moved as one, anticipating each other's needs without a word, their bond transcending the chaos that raged around them. As the battle reached its crescendo, Zara realized the true purpose of their training. It wasn't just about mastering quantum manipulation or combat techniques. It was about this moment, this perfect synchronization of two beings from different worlds, united in purpose and spirit. "Alex," she called out, a plan forming in her mind. "Remember what the custodian said about the malleability of reality?" He nodded, understanding immediately. "If we can't overpower it, we rewrite the rules," Zara finished. In that moment of shared epiphany, their quantum signatures aligned perfectly. The crystal armor that encased them began to glow with an intensity that rivaled stars. Energy coursed between them, growing exponentially with each passing second. The Void Monarch sensed the shift, its confident sneer morphing into an expression of dawning horror. "No, this is impossible." "Nothing is impossible," Zara and Alex spoke in unison, their voices resonating with the power of the quantum lattice itself. "Reality is what we make of it." For a long moment, neither spoke. The weight of their responsibility pressed down upon them like a physical force. Finally, Zara turned to Alex, her eyes shimmering with a mixture of determination and fear. "I know what you're thinking," she said softly. "That this is too big, too dangerous. That maybe we should turn back, find help." Alex met her gaze, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Actually, I was thinking about how glad I am to be facing this with you by my side." Zara felt a warmth bloom in her chest, momentarily banishing the chill of the void around them. She reached out, intertwining her fingers with Alex's. As their hands touched, a spark of quantum energy danced between them, a reminder of the incredible power they wielded together. "Then let's do this," she said, her voice ringing with newfound resolve. "For all the realities counting on us." With a shared nod of determination, they set their ship on a course for the heart of the anomaly. As they approached, reality began to fracture around them. The viewscreen filled with a dizzying array of conflicting images, glimpses of worlds that might have been, timelines that never came to pass. "There," Alex called out, pointing to a shimmering fissure in the chaotic maelstrom before them. "That must be the entrance to the labyrinth." Zara gripped the controls tightly, her enhanced senses stretching to their limit as she guided their vessel through the narrow opening. The moment they crossed the threshold, everything changed. The ship vanished around them, leaving Zara and Alex floating in a sea of fragmented memories and half-formed realities. Images flashed by at dizzying speed, a dinosaur roaring in a neon-lit cityscape, a starship crashing into a medieval castle, a version of Earth where the sky was green and the grass was blue. "Stay focused," Zara called out, feeling the pull of 1,000 alternate histories trying to claim her. "Remember who we are, why we're here." They pushed forward, their quantum-infused bodies allowing them to navigate the chaos. But with each step, the labyrinth grew more treacherous. Temporal eddies threatened to sweep them into dead-end timelines. Probability storms rained down shards of unrealized futures. Just when it seemed they might be lost forever in the swirling madness, a pinprick of absolute darkness appeared before them. The entropy engine, a sphere of perfect nothingness, sucking in light and time and possibility. "There it is," Alex breathed, his voice filled with equal parts awe and horror. "But how do we get close enough to overload it?" Zara's mind raced, pieces of a plan falling into place. "The custodian said we need to use our combined power. What if we create our own timeline? A path of stable reality leading right to the core." Alex's eyes widened as he grasped her meaning. A quantum bridge, woven from our shared experiences and the strength of our bond. Zara, that's brilliant. With renewed purpose, they reached out to each other. As their hands clasped, tendrils of crystal energy spiraled out around them, forming a shimmering pathway through the chaos. Memories flashed by as they advanced. Their first meeting on that desolate world, their training on the crystal planet, the battle against the Void Monarch. Each shared moment strengthened their connection, making their quantum bridge more real. Finally, they stood before the entropy engine itself. Up close, its wrongness was almost overwhelming. A singularity of uncreation that threatened to unmake them with its very presence. "Ready?" Alex asked, his voice steady despite the trembling Zara could feel through their joined hands. She nodded, summoning every ounce of power she possessed. Together. As one, they released a torrent of pure quantum energy into the engine's core. Reality buckled around them as two fundamental forces collided, the power of creation versus the entropy of unmaking. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if they might be overwhelmed. The void pulled at them, threatening to erase them from existence. But then, like a cosmic sigh of relief, the entropy engine began to destabilize. "It's working," Zara cried out, her voice barely audible over the reality-rending cacophony around them. "Just a little more." With a final, earth-shattering surge of energy, Zara and Alex released their combined power. The universe itself seemed to pause, countless realities holding their collective breath. Then, like a cosmic reset button being pressed, everything changed. The Void Monarch's corrupted crystal technology imploded, taking the vast armada with it. But instead of destruction, there was transformation. The twisted energies were purified, reabsorbed into the great tapestry of the multiverse. As the light faded and reality reasserted itself, Zara and Alex found themselves floating in the peaceful void of space, the crystal planet glowing serenely behind them. The custodian's voice echoed in their minds one last time. "Well done, Guardians. You have restored balance to the quantum realm. But your journey is far from over. The multiverse will always need protectors, and you have proven yourselves worthy of that sacred duty." Zara turned to Alex, tears of joy and exhaustion glimmering in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. He pulled her close, their foreheads touching as they basked in the aftermath of their victory. "Together," Alex replied softly. "Always together." As they drifted there, suspended between countless realities, Zara and Alex knew that this was only the beginning. New adventures, new challenges, and new wonders awaited them across the vast expanse of the multiverse. But whatever the future held, they would face it side by side. Two souls from distant stars, now bound as one in the grand cosmic dance of existence. The saga of the Quantum Guardians had only just begun. Echoes of infinity. The cosmic dust had barely settled from their confrontation with the Void Monarch when Zara and Alex found themselves thrust into a new crisis. As they traversed the quantum highways between realities, guided by their innate connection to the lattice, they stumbled upon a disturbing anomaly. "Alex, are you seeing this?" Zara's voice was tight with concern as she manipulated the holographic display before them. The image showed a sprawling web of interconnected timelines, but at its center was a pulsing void, a nexus of nothingness that seemed to be slowly consuming neighboring realities. Alex frowned, his fingers dancing over the controls of their new ship, a marvel of crystal technology gifted to them by the custodian. It's like a dead zone in the multiverse, but that should be impossible. "After everything we've seen, I'm starting to think that word doesn't apply to us anymore," Zara replied with a wry smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. As they approached the anomaly, the ship's sensors began to shriek in protest. Reality itself seemed to warp and twist around them, the laws of physics breaking down in chaotic swirls of energy. "Brace for impact," Alex shouted, but his warning came too late. A wave of null energy slammed into their vessel, sending them spinning out of control. Zara felt a sickening lurch in her stomach as the world outside the view screen became a kaleidoscope of fractured timelines and dimensional rifts. When the tumult finally subsided, they found themselves drifting in an ocean of absolute stillness. No stars shone in the void around them. No cosmic background radiation hummed in their sensors. It was as if they had fallen into a pocket of anti-reality. "Where are we?" Zara whispered, her voice sounding unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence. Before Alex could respond, a flickering hologram materialized in the center of their bridge. The image resolved into a familiar crystalline form, the custodian, but its usual radiance was dim and distorted. "Guardians," the being's voice crackled with interference, "you have stumbled upon the greatest threat our multiverse has ever faced. The entropy engine, a device of unimaginable power, capable of unraveling the very fabric of existence." "But who would create such a thing?" Alex demanded, his scientific mind reeling at the implications. The custodian's form flickered ominously. "It is the work of the nullifiers, beings from beyond our multiversal cluster who seek to reduce all of creation to a state of perfect, eternal stasis. They believe this to be the ultimate form of order." Zara's fists clenched at her sides, crystal energy crackling around her fingers. "How do we stop them?" "The entropy engine is protected by layers of collapsing timelines and probability fields. To reach it, you must navigate the labyrinth of lost moments, a maze of fragmented realities where cause and effect have no meaning." "And once we're through?" Alex asked, already running mental calculations and probability models. "You must use your combined power to overload the engine's core, but be warned, the backlash could tear you apart at the quantum level. The choice to proceed is yours alone." With those ominous words, the custodian's hologram faded away, leaving Zara and Alex alone in the oppressive void. "It's worse than I thought," Alex muttered, his hands dancing over the controls. "They've collapsed multiple timelines into one. We need to find the nexus point and—" His words were cut off as a barrage of energy bolts rocked their ship. Through the view screen, they saw a squadron of vessels unlike anything they'd encountered before, part clockwork, part crystalline technology, trailing streams of temporal distortion in their wake. "Chronarch fighters," Zara called out, taking evasive action. "We need to lose them." What followed was a harrowing chase through the skies of a New York City that had never existed. Zara's piloting skills were pushed to their limit as she wove between quantum-shifted skyscrapers and dodged blasts of chrono energy. Finally, they managed to shake their pursuers, setting the ship down in the ruins of Central Park, now a wild tangle of prehistoric fauna and hyper-evolved flora. As they emerged from their vessel, the full scope of the Chronarch's meddling became clear. Citizens from a dozen different eras wandered the streets in a daze, their personal timelines fractured and confused. "We need to find my counterpart," Alex said, his voice tight with urgency. "If anyone knows where the nexus point is, it'll be him." They made their way through the temporal chaos, using their quantum abilities to stay hidden from Chronarch patrols. As they neared the heart of the city, a massive structure loomed before them, a towering edifice of ever-shifting architecture, part ancient ziggurat, part futuristic citadel. "The Tempest Citadel," Zara whispered, recalling legends from her own world. "Seat of power for beings who've mastered time itself." As if in response to her words, a holographic image flickered to life before them. It was Alex, but not the Alex standing beside her. This version was older, his face lined with the weight of years and terrible knowledge. He wore ornate robes adorned with clockwork gears and pulsing crystals. "Ah, the vaunted quantum guardians," the other Alex sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "Come to undo all my hard work, I suppose." Zara felt her Alex stiffen beside her. "What have you done?" he demanded of his doppelganger. The Chronarch Alex's laugh was cold and mirthless. "What you never had the courage to do. I seized control with the temporal nexus, rewritten history to avert every catastrophe, every moment of pain and loss. I've created perfection. At what cost? Zara challenged, gesturing to the fractured reality around them. You've torn the fabric of space-time itself. A small price to pay for utopia, the other Alex dismissed with a wave of his hand. Join me, and we can reshape all of reality in our image. Resist and be erased from the timeline. The hologram vanished, leaving Zara and Alex standing in stunned silence. Slowly, Zara turned to her partner, seeing the conflict raging in his eyes. Alex, she said softly, reaching out to cup his face. That's not you. Not the you I know, the you I. Her words were cut off as the ground beneath them began to tremble. Reality itself seemed to groan under the strain of temporal contradictions. In the distance, the Tempest Citadel pulsed with ominous energy. The paradox core, Alex realized, his eyes widening. He's activating it, if it reaches critical mass. Then we stop it, Zara finished, her voice filled with steely resolve. Together. They shared a nod of understanding before racing towards the citadel. As they ran, the world around them began to unravel. Buildings flickered between different architectural styles, people phased in and out of existence, and the sky above churned with temporal energy. Reaching the base of the massive structure, they were confronted by a contingent of Chronarch guards, warriors plucked from a dozen different eras, their bodies augmented with clockwork implants and crystal tech. I don't suppose we can talk this out, Alex quipped, falling into a fighting stance. Zara's response was to summon her quantum staff, the weapon materializing in a flash of crystalline light. Less talking, more timeline saving. What followed was a battle that defied the laws of physics and causality. Zara and Alex moved in perfect synchronization, their quantum-infused abilities allowing them to manipulate the fractured time stream to their advantage. Zara's staff became a blur of motion, each strike sending ripples through space-time. She phased through enemy attacks, appearing behind her foes to deliver crushing blows that aged them to dust or reverted them to infants. Alex wielded his quantum sword with surgical precision, cutting through the Chronarch's temporal shields and disrupting their chronotech. His scientific mind allowed him to predict and counter their attempts to rewrite the immediate past, turning their own time manipulation against them. As the last guard fell, the doors to the citadel swung open with an ominous groan. Inside, a labyrinth of twisting corridors awaited, each seemingly leading to a different era. We don't have time to search them all, Zara panted, her body thrumming with excess temporal energy. Alex's eyes narrowed in concentration. We don't have to. I can feel it, a pull towards myself. The paradox core must be linked directly to my counterpart's timeline. Following Alex's intuition, they navigated the chaotic interior of the Tempest Citadel. Time flowed strangely here. In some corridors, they felt centuries pass in seconds, while in others, a single step took eons. Finally, they'd burst into a vast chamber at the heart of the structure. At its center hovered a swirling vortex of temporal energy, the paradox core. Before it stood the Chronarch Alex, his hands raised as he conducted the symphony of collapsing timelines. You're too late, he crowed as he sensed their arrival. The core has reached critical mass. Soon, all of reality will be reforged in my image. It doesn't have to be this way, Alex pleaded with his counterpart. We can still undo this damage, find another way. There is no other way. The Chronarch roared, turning to face them. His eyes blazed with maniacal fervor. I've seen every possible future, lived through countless iterations of failure and loss. This is the only path to salvation. Zara stepped forward, her voice filled with compassion. No single being should have that power. The multiverse isn't meant to be controlled, but experienced in all its infinite variety. For a moment, doubt flickered across the Chronarch's face. Then his features hardened once more. Enough. If you won't join me, then you'll be unmade along with every imperfect timeline. With a gesture, he unleashed the full fury of the paradox core. Reality walked around them, past and future colliding in a maelstrom of temporal energy. Zara and Alex found themselves reliving moments from their own history, Their first meeting, their battles against cosmic threats, quiet moments of connection between crises. But threaded through it all were glimpses of paths not taken, lives they might have led had circumstances been different. Zara saw herself as a revered leader on Lyra, never exiled, but never knowing the wonders of the multiverse. Alex witnessed a version of himself that had never left Earth, living a life of quiet scientific pursuits, but feeling always that something was missing. As the tempest of possibilities raged around them, Zara and Alex reached for each other. Their hands clasped, a lifeline in the chaos of unraveling timelines. "Alex," Zara called out, her voice barely audible above the temporal storm. "Whatever happens, whatever we've been through or might have been, I wouldn't change a moment of it. Our path brought us together, and that's all that matters." Alex's grip tightened on hers. "You're right. All the infinite possibilities, and somehow we found each other. That has to mean something." As their eyes met, a spark of understanding passed between them. In that moment of perfect synchronization, they realized the truth. Their bond, their love, transcended time and space. It was a constant in every iteration of reality. With newfound resolve, they turned to face the chronarch and the swirling paradox core. As one, they raised their free hands, channeling every ounce of their quantum power. "No," the chronarch cried out, realizing too late the strength of their connection. "You'll destroy everything I've built." "Not destroy," Zara corrected, her voice resonating with the power of the quantum lattice. "Restore." A beam of pure quantum energy erupted from their joined hands, lancing into the heart of the paradox core. For a moment, the maelstrom intensified, reality itself seeming to hold its breath. Then, with a sound like 1,000 galaxies sighing in relief, the core began to stabilize. The fractured timelines slowly unknotted themselves, each moment finding its proper place in the grand tapestry of existence. The chronarch Alex howled in anguish as his carefully constructed reality unraveled around him. His form flickered, becoming transparent as the timeline that had created him was erased. "Wait," Alex called out, still feeling a connection to his alternate self. "It doesn't have to end this way. Come back with us, help us protect the multiverse as it should be." For a brief moment, gratitude and understanding flashed in the chronarch's eyes. Then, with a sad smile, he shook his head. "My time is done, but I see now, the multiverse is in good hands." With those final words, he faded from existence, taking with him the last vestiges of the fractured timeline. As the temporal storm subsided, Zara and Alex found themselves standing once more in a familiar New York City, whole, unaltered, and blissfully unaware of how close it had come to obliteration. They turned to each other, exhausted but triumphant. No words were needed as they embraced, their quantum essences harmonizing in a way that went beyond the physical. "So," Zara said at last, a mischievous glint in her eye, "what's next for the Quantum Guardians?" Alex laughed, the sound full of joy and possibility. "The multiverse is infinite, and so are our potential adventures. Shall we find out together?" Hand in hand, they made their way back to their ship, ready to face whatever new wonders and challenges awaited them across the vast expanse of realities. For they had learned the most important lesson of all, that in the grand cosmic dance of existence, love was the most powerful force of all, capable of transcending time, space, and even the boundaries of reality itself. As their vessel lifted off, disappearing into the quantum slipstream, the saga of the Quantum Guardians continued, a testament to the enduring power of connection in a universe of infinite possibilities.